Welcome to Point Blank, brought to you by Fitz Roofing. I'm Brandon Stranger, Sports Map Houston. That's Joel Blank of the Killer Bees, which you can hear weekdays noon to 3 on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5, or anytime on demand at your favorite podcast provider. And hey, while you're here watching us, please hit like on the video, hit subscribe on the channel, click that bell for notifications, comment below. Hey, we got White Sox fans coming in here calling their shot, so you better get down there and say something too. Hey, Joel, welcome in. I wanted to talk to you about this because James Harden made some comments in recent days, and he had some interesting comments. I wanted to run them by you because context matters here. He was talking about the situation between Ben Simmons and the Sixers and kind of the comparisons that have been made between him and the Rockets. And he said it's different. And one of the more interesting quotes that he made, and I want to ask you about this specifically, he says, quote, "Hopefully everyone's forgotten about it and everyone's good." That's interesting, right? The trade allowed Houston to immediately tank, draft Green at number 2. Now they have extra picks to rebuild over multiple years. With Harden here, the Rockets were in cap hell, had painted themselves into an impossible corner personnel-wise. I guess what my question is, did it actually work out better for Houston trading Harden?
Well, Brandon, it's tough because some people look at it from that perspective. Other people are going to evaluate the whole thing by what they got in return and continually say they didn't get enough. But the fact was, falling into the number 2 slot, which they probably wouldn't have done had they gotten more, probably was ideal for the Houston Rockets because you end up getting a possible generational talent like Jalen Green, and you end up with 4 19-year-old draft picks in the first round that help the rebuild go faster, help them all develop together, and give you a core you can build around, along with some other young talent you already got in the fold, like a Jayshawn Tate and others. So the deal did work out. But I think that the one thing that's interesting from the James Harden perspective is savvy Houston basketball fans and savvy Houston fans overall don't forget. And the fact that he was the one that said, "I'm done." He was the one that said, "I want out and I don't want to be with the Rockets anymore." That's the one thing James Harden is forgetting about. That the fact that no matter what he would like ideally the situation to be, Rockets fans are tough, they're savvy, and they're not going to take that. They gave him everything they possibly could for 8 years, and in return, he gave them a swift middle finger on his way out the door. And on top of that, they actually did him one final favor and traded him to the team he wanted to go to. So Rockets fans, the city of Houston, the organization, they bent over backwards for the beard. He got everything he wanted. I would believe that he wants everybody to be good right now, but I don't think that Houston fans in particular will ever be good with that decision.
I'm glad you brought that up because he was recently asked about re-signing with Brooklyn, and I thought those comments were interesting too. I want to ask you about that, but first, give us a word from our friends at Fitz Roofing.
Well, we love the people at Fitz Roofing. Look, Corey's not only the guy that runs Fitz Roofing, but he also is the vice president of the Houston Roofers Association. What does that tell you? He's credible, he knows his stuff, and he's going to be there for you every step of the way along with his people. Fitz Roofing takes care of you, and that starts with a free no-obligation inspection. Just call 832-521-3001. They come to you and they tell you what they can do, from a roof repair to a whole new roof on your business or your home repairs, fence for your yard, you name it, they can do it. Check out fitzroofing.com as well, but get that free no obligation inspection and have them come to you today. Fitz Roofing, making a difference one home at a time.
Obviously, James Harden's first year in Brooklyn didn't work out the way he or his friends wanted it to. He was asked recently about re-signing with Brooklyn. He said he just wanted to focus on winning. And there's some speculation surrounding his contract that maybe he'll sign a 1-and-1 deal, in which he'll get, a 1 year and then 1 player option to kind of give him some flexibility. And that's interesting because when he was traded from Houston, he said, quote, "I fell short, and for that I'm forever indebted. It's far from a goodbye as I pay all my debts." Now, Joel, when LeBron James left Cleveland, that allowed the Cavs to draft Kyrie Irving. And we saw LeBron return to the Cavs and team up with Irving to win a chip and pay his debt, so to speak, in Cleveland. Harden leaving allowed Houston to draft Green. Houston's going to have more picks and more cap space in the years to come. I know this is a pipe dream, but could we eventually see Harden make a LeBron-esque return to Houston to clean up some of that unfinished business here?
I think it's wishful thinking on certain people's parts, and maybe including you, Brandon. But I think that overall, when you look at it from a franchise perspective, why would you want him back? Because the one thing you know about him is not only the fact that people don't forget how he left, but also to come back would mean that he would want to be the man, and he would want the ball in his hands, and he would demand to be the center and focal point of the offense. By the time he's ready to come back, if the development is such that Kevin Porter Jr. and Green become the backcourt of the now and the future, I don't know if there's room for James Harden, because I think that they've moved on too. As hard as it was for the franchise in the city to swallow early on, this franchise is moving forward. They're taking positive steps. James might ideally want to come back here. He also said he'd love to play the rest of his career in Brooklyn. James is all about winning because James needs help. So as long as Kyrie and KD are in Brooklyn, he'll stay in Brooklyn. If they go away and he's looking for the next destination, hey, Houston looks good because they got a really good backcourt. So that's what you should keep an eye on first and foremost. He also said, I've never been a free agent before. I'd like to know what that feels like. The Rockets right now are in a great position. They don't focus on one player. They're focusing on a core group of players that could really be what they need. And so therefore, I don't think they need James Harden back.
Maybe they don't, but I think one of the interesting parallels was LeBron James said when he left Cleveland, he needed to learn how to win and came back with a new attitude. And that did allow him to defer to guys like Kyrie Irving to take some big shots at the end. So maybe we could see that same sort of a growth arc from James Harden. We'll have to see how that plays out. As always, Joel, I appreciate your time.